Hello and welcome to Money Control. Well, my name is Kshitij Anand, and today we will talk about women who have made big on D Street and are guiding light to fellow women investors as well. Well, today women are playing a major role in various arenas like politics, defense, sports, IT, finance, and now markets. Now, the latest data suggests that proportion of women investors who joined D Street in the pandemic is close to 10 to 15%. The overall strength of women investors is close to 25%. Now, today we'll be discussing the challenges which women investors face and how our experts are helping them to bridge the learning gap. Now, let me introduce my first guest, Kanika Agrawal, who is the co founder and CIO of Upside AI, a fintech startup that aims to revolutionize the investment space with the help of machine learning. Welcome to the show, Kanika.
Hi, Kshitij. Hi, everyone else. Very nice. Very happy to be here.
Right. And my next guest is Nirali Shah, who is head of equity research at Samco Securities. Well, Nirali has a work experience spanning across capital markets and investment research. Research and working knowledge on technicals have guided investors through well researched ideas for the short and the long term. Well, welcome to the show, Nirali.
Hi, Shrutit. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Right. And finally, we have Deepika Jayakishan, who is a co-founder and COO of Basis. Well, Basis is a first-of-the-kind platform focused on financial independence for women through jargon-free learning, supportive communities, and curated financial advice and tools. Welcome to the show, Deepika.
Thanks, Kshitij. Hey, Nirali. Hey, Kanika. So glad to be a part of this conversation.
Right. Well, the first question I want to bring across to Kanika. Well, Kanika, well, you're an investor and now trader and entrepreneur as well. So, how difficult was it for you to take this giant leap?
Becoming an entrepreneur is easy, right? It's a binary decision.
Sure.
It's staying an entrepreneur that's harder, right? Because the journey is relentless. You're constantly, there's self doubt, there's doubt from the world, there is scaling which takes time. Day zero is always tough. So I would say that the last 2 3 years after I made the decision was way harder than actually making the decision. Plus, I'm Madhu, so I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. So I
Right, it
live in
was
the
running in your veins, huh?
that's what it is. And the markets, right? I'm Madhu and Gujju actually. So
Okay,
it's markets and entrepreneurship.
a lethal combination to start with.
Right.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, Nirali, let me come to you. And I've seen you sort of marking your way from research analyst to head of equity research now at Samco. How was your journey for you? And did you also had any innovations getting into the stock market?
The journey has been extremely enriching, if you say. There were a lot of learnings on the way, like on the
Sure.
way up. And at the start, maybe I would start with a few sectors and a few companies. But as I grew, there was professional and personal satisfaction, which I gained. There was a lot more responsibility as well. So, with more responsibilities, the pressure is also higher. But it has been a fun ride, and I've it has actually helped me work on my creative juices and think of and look at markets from a different
Mhm.
perspective.
Right.
So overall inhibitions, if you mean from the fear sense, then
Yes.
not really, not
Okay.
really, because look, markets was always like a hobby to me from the start.
Okay. Okay.
So right since my childhood, I used to read the papers and follow news. So it was always a hobby, and making your hobby into a profession is always fun. So it has been a very good experience till now. No complaints.
I'm sure. Well, a lot of viewers who are, watching this show, I'm sure they also learn from that. And Deepika, you've been a guiding light for, I'm sure, thousands of women investors. How has been journey for you as well and your team?
I think it's been very rewarding, Kshitij. Much like what Kanika was saying earlier on. Of course, like taking that leap into entrepreneurship and all of that.
Mhm.
That's like a binary decision, but everything else that comes after can either be easy or tough, totally depending on the way we approach it. It has been very rewarding considering the fact that we have this single-minded focus, which is transforming the way an urban working woman deals with her money. And yeah, to your point, having talked to thousands of women over the last 13 years and in capacity as a wealth manager, and now, of course, like running basis. Just the transformation we see in terms of the way women are thinking about their money, changing the way they make their decisions, having healthy conversations with their partners or families about money. I think, yeah, we're watching that change, we're participating in that change, and yeah, that's very rewarding.
Right. And I think this is one fear which everyone has initially whenever they get onto something, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship, whether the venture will actually sail through or will there be a lot of difficulties. But there's a saying that change is the only constant, and we have to adapt to the change and move forward. Yes, difficulties will be there at the end of the day, but then again, we should. I mean, we have to have that kind of might to battle those difficulties and move forward in the venture that we plan to start with. And as Nirali said that if your hobby can become your profession, then nothing like it. Well, you're the lucky ones, what you can say that. So moving on to the next question, Kanika. Were you convinced from the beginning that equities is something that you want to get into, and who was your inspiration? Now, why I sort of picked that up is uh, life happened. There's a saying that life
Right.
happened. For me, I was never into, or I've never thought that I'll be into journalism or financial journalism, because I myself is a MS Finance CFA and so on and so forth. I wanted to get into analysis and everything, but as I say, life happened. So it's just like
Right.
that. So was
Right.
it the same for you as well? It just happened, or did you something sort of planned out like that?
Sure, sure. So I always knew I was going to invest, right?
Sure.
So what that it didn't matter what or where. So I started my career in venture capital, spent 4 years investing in early
Nice.
stage companies, right
Right.
before moving to the public side. And the whole reason for moving was because there is so much opportunity, so much alpha to be made, even in the public markets. And what you're doing is
Right.
actually solving the liquidity part of venture capital, right? I no longer have to look for exits; they already exist. So it was an interesting space to move to. So I would say I always knew I was going to invest. I didn't know I was going to end up in public markets. You always do it, in your personal portfolio, like Nirali was mentioning, as a hobby, but not something that you do
Right.
actively. And as we started out, as cliche as it is, intelligent investor Benjamin Graham, is our number one inspiration behind Upside AI and Warren Buffett,
Right.
etc. The whole
Right.
idea is how do you create sustainable long-term wealth, risk adjusted. That's really what we're trying to do.
Right. Nirali, was it from the beginning that you also decided to be in the markets, or what were or who was your inspiration? Was it Warren Buffett, or our own Jhunjhunwala?
So, as Kanika said, actually, even for me, since my childhood, I didn't see myself becoming an analyst or doing this professionally, because it was just in my pastime that I used to look at the markets and read up on companies just for my own understanding, or because I felt like doing it. So it was initially. So even I'm from a science background, if you see, but I realized on the way that if I actually do something which is my forte, it will be fun doing it day in and day out. It will also make me happy. There will be, anyway, markets never fail to surprise, so there's never a day of monotony in the markets. And so that was actually my journey. And even I have taken inspiration from Warren Buffett and Benjamin Graham and his philosophy of margin and safety and compounding of returns. So
Right.
it's all on that, and I believe in hardcore believer in holding stocks for the long term. As I would like to quote Warren Buffett, as he says, you should be happy buying stocks which you can hold for 10 years. Even if the market shuts down for 10 years, it doesn't matter. So
Right.
yeah.
Well, we'll come to that and pick your brains on which fundamentals to watch out for, for women investors. Well, Deepika, for you as well, what inspired you to start Basis, which is aimed at enabling women to achieve financial independence through expert advice. I know it must have been a difficult journey starting with, but then again, a lot of people joined you, and and जो कहते हैं ना
Yeah,
कारवां बनता गया, लोग जुड़ते
yeah.
गए और कारवां बनता गया.
No, totally, Shivish. I think the inspiration was the problem that we were solving. So my co-founder and I, Hannah, we go back 25 years. We've been friends since grade four, and she'd been working in fintech. I'd been working in personal finance, and of course, like in the course of working in wealth, you really understand that women are given the same products, we're dealt with exactly the same way. While we might
Right.
bucket it as, oh, we're doing financial planning, risk profiling, all of that stuff. It was all the
Mhm.
same, not realizing that there are nuances to our lives which really need to be addressed. Whether it's the fact that 90% of us will have to manage our money on our own at some point in our lives, whether it's the fact that, you know what, reproductive health is expensive. Unfortunately, more women are now victim to going through these procedures. No one talks to you about it. It's not, always the big problems. I need 5 crores for my retirement. It's
Sure.
more the day to day or those life situations that come up which were left unaddressed when it came to women and money. And just the
Mhm.
fact that there was this gap where you didn't have a place to go to and feel comfortable or candid asking questions, which is where Basis' community came in. That we have thousands of women who now talk about this stuff, and you realize, I'm not alone, and this problem will be addressed. And talk to me not just by somebody who's going through the same situation, but
Right.
by experts who will help me get to the root of it, help me solve it, tell me what I need to do about it, whether it's insurance, investments, or whether it's even just staying put. Sometimes as
Mhm.
women, we just need that reassurance that, stay put,
Right.
don't make any changes. Like Nirali was saying,
Mhm.
like, what if the market shut for 10 years? So I think, yeah, that reassurance, validation, knowledge was lacking. And that's where Basis came in. The team has grown 3 times since March 2020, which is
Okay.
great for us. And yeah, as is our community growing. So yeah, it's been good.
All right, more power to you, Deepika, in that case, and I'm sure you'll, in the way, you'll help out more such women who are looking for that kind of education in investing and personal finance. Now, Kanika, the times are changing, and AI is something that part of most businesses now. This helps investors to make quick decisions, definitely, without putting in too much effort. What would you advise, and how can AI help women investors?
So across the board, right? Like with any decision-making process, as AI starts becoming more and more mainstream, one is, of course, the data that goes in. That's number
Right.
one, right? Garbage in, garbage out. The second is, what is the question you're asking, right? What are you looking to have answered? So
Mhm.
generally, the expectation with starting to use technology is that it's perfect, right? So it's
Right.
going to give me the perfect stock, and I'm going to pick 10 stocks, and all of them going to be outperformers. So what are you expecting tech to do for you? It's giving you the, an outcome which it thinks has the highest probability of success. So I think it's two, threefold. One is understand that the data that goes in is yours. The
Right.
models that build are built by humans, and you need to be reasonable about your expectations from these models. I
Sure.
think those two, three things are very critical as AI become more and more mainstream in decision making and investing, as well as across different fields. But most so in investing, I would say, because sometimes what you're expecting in input versus output are completely mismatched. Yeah, I guess that's what you would look for.
Right. And also, if you could throw some light on, as you've mentioned before, also that AI is the new Warren Buffett. So why not throw
Yeah.
some light on that as well?
Sure. So, what we're trying to do, like we were saying, our inspiration has been Warren Buffett, Benjamin Graham, and what we've seen world over is that there is a very clear shift away from humans into systemized rules-based investing. Whether it's
Right.
ETFs, whether it's quant funds, they're driving more and more of the markets. And in India, we're still using tech largely to do technicals or high-frequency trading, while most of
Mhm.
our money is going into fundamentals, where actual money managers are taking calls on managements, on industries, on companies, and then qualitatively deciding what to buy
Correct.
to deliver alpha. But what you see over the last 5-10 years is humans have failed to consistently deliver alpha. So to us, the problem is trying to solve is, can you teach machines fundamental investing? Right?
Sure.
Can you teach a machine how to read P&L, balance sheet, cash flow data, and figure out what it means to be good, and then buy and
Mhm.
hold? So it's a very simple, honestly boring product where you're just
Mhm.
buying and holding good companies. The only difference is AI is helping you make that decision and not just humans. So hopefully, we're driving emotions and bias out of the process. and that should lead to more structured, almost ruthless decision making, by us for our investors. And it's done pretty well actually. 2020 we returned 40%
Wow.
for our investors. We were a top decile PMS for the year.
All right. Well, that's good news. And well, Nirali, she's also a fundamental investor and believes a lot in fundamental investing. Well, Nirali, you have over 7 years of experience in capital market, and as a fundamental research analyst, what are your key parameters from a balance sheet point of view? Which women investors should follow.
So, for a beginner investor, I feel they should start by making a checklist of a few factors. Even though you don't know, like annual report can be a pretty intimidating document for a
Sure.
person who doesn't know how to, doesn't know the jargons or doesn't know all the nitty gritties that go into it. So, you can start with the basics, and a basic checklist of maybe 5 to 6 factors will at least guide you, because every time you read a new annual report or you buy or you think of investing in a new company, you will add maybe more factors to it. You will obviously keep updating your checklist. So this will at least help you have a systematic, disciplined approach to investing.
Mhm.
And a few factors which are the basic ones which you would find in any website or any other online platform would
Sure.
be the ROE, ROCE, which should be at least about 20%. There should not be excessive leverage. You should check the promoter pledge. If the promoter pledge is too high, then that is very risky.
Right.
And working capital cycle, and there are a lot of things which a person must check, because there are so many moving stones
True.
that go behind a company and a company's growth.
Mhm.
So I feel that at the start, as a beginner, a person can do one thing. They can pick like a basket of stocks, and
Sure.
the basket of stocks can be used. They could be long-term secular stocks, so which you don't need to keep looking at them. There would be news. You can bypass the news only if there is a fundamental deterioration in the company. That's when
Mhm.
you have to sell it. But if you
Absolutely.
pick up secular long-term trends which have been growing since the past couple of years and they have given consistent returns, then you don't really have to bother about them being in your portfolio. So you should concentrate more on quality over quantity, and pick. You can pick them in a SIP format as well, because you
True.
can do SIPs in individual baskets of stocks, like maybe a 10 to 15 stocks you can have in your portfolio, and keep doing SIPs every month by picking up a portion every month.
Mhm.
And I think then holding is the key. Then you have to become a passive investor and have all the patience in the world and hold it for it to play out the compounding returns that you would want. I think that's the approach you can take.
Right. Boring could be monotonous, but boring is also rewarding. That's what if you go by our own rich text of our shastras and everything. So if you have a boring food, then you are sustainable, because that is more sustainable for a long term. But you
Right.
can't have oily food on a day-to-day basis or every day, then it might just upset your stomach. So boring is actually rewarding, and that is the new mantra, which is already there, and it is already in it is already there in our books. If somebody goes, so yes, the discussion roots to that format, that yes, if you have quality stocks in your portfolio, hold them and wait for the returns to come in. Now, Deepika, would also want to know that what are the initiatives or different initiatives you've started to educate women investors, and I'm sure you've done that a lot in the in the past, since you've started, and you've also planned to do some in the near future. So, a brief of what you've done and probably what you want to start.
No, yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. I think to start with, Kshitij, yes, just the one initiative which was that space of our community, which helps women talk about investing, insurance, how do I negotiate my salary, how do I write a good resume. These may not sound like big problems, but they are problems that enable or really disable you in many ways when it comes to your potential of earning and hence investing, etc. So one is the community, of course. The problem when it comes to financial planning or wealth management, I always think, having been a financial planner, is a problem of scale, right? If I want to reach those thousands of working women across India who have a similar pain point, and yeah, via a technology platform like Basis, how can we scale that? How can we solution and provide all these women the right advice, which is relative to them, it's objective to their problems, and helps them not just invest, but the key being you're learning through your investment. And I'm glad, both Kanika and Nirali talked about Warren Buffett. It's interesting. There's this book called Warren Buffett Invest Like a Girl, which really talks more than anything about his temperament of investing and how emotions really overrule any logic when it comes to investments. But yeah, having that validation that, you know what, the world's greatest investor probably invest like how a woman would. So one initiative is our community. The other one, so over the last 13 years now, I have done over 1,500 workshops, webinars, etc., across communities, companies, and just general group of women who might need these conversations. That's something we continue to do. This is much more engaged now at corporate levels, because corporates have now started taking this very seriously. As
Yes.
Basis, we have something amazing coming up starting Women's Day. It's called Basis First. It's a subscription based a program where a woman can really choose, a combination of services that she wants. She may not want a financial planner, but she just wants to attend like 5 conversations in a year, where she's probably hearing someone like a Nirali talk about stocks, somebody like Kanika talking about, AI and investing in things like that. So providing these combination of options where you choose, this is my problem area, and guess what? Basis has whatever solution I might need to solve for it.
Right. So basically, bridging the gap of
Yeah.
education. That's good news. And 1,500 workshops. That's wow. And I'm sure more power to you, Deepika, as I already said. And I'm sure you keep on doing this good work for the community as well. Now, Kanika, how is Upside AI as well helping women investors? Any initiative that you've undertaken recently?
So actually, Warren Buffett invests like a girl. That's interesting because there was a study that I was reading about recently where women are actually better investors than men statistically, because they make lesser decisions, they trade less, and that's why their returns on average is about a percent or two higher than men. This was done, using thousands of data points in the US
Right.
for about 2 decades or so. So,
Mhm.
interesting. I'm glad, Kshitij, before the conference, you were talking about how your wife helps you invest. So good decision right at the beginning.
Mhm.
But right, so initiatives for women for us are not really that different from men. Honestly, even within the team, we're pretty equally split, equal number of men and women within the team, making decisions, building products, and selling them. To us, the whole idea is get investors to start diversifying their portfolios across approaches. So when you buy 4 or 5 mutual funds or 4 or 5 PMSs, you're actually
Sure.
just investing behind 4 humans, right?
Yes.
So add tech to your portfolio.
Mhm.
Diversify away from people, away from emotions and biases, and that's why tech should start being part of your asset allocation.
True.
And this is true, across the board for men and women as they start to look to build their portfolios. So
Mhm.
for us, actually, even within our investor base, I would say half our investors are women,
Okay.
who are taking a very active role and active approach in managing their money, asking the right questions, asking us about our performance, our portfolios, what we're holding, and even on our distributor side, most of the relationship managers are women. So you would be surprised by how many women you end up are ending up in the space, and makes me very proud and happy. That is the case today.
Well, that's good news, and in fact, it's an enriching statistic as well, which Kanika has thrown up. That the proportion of women investors as well as advisors are increasing by the day, and that just really shows that the power the women community has at this point in time, and it's only gonna go higher and not lower from here. That's what we also support us at this point in time. Now, Nirali, coming to you, what message would you like to give to investors? Especially who are the ones who joined D Street in the year 2020, and a lot of women investors have actually joined. You could say the party on D Street, which started off from the month of March, and then it was a straight rise that we've seen to record highs. So yes, a lot of demat accounts were opened around about 10 to 15%. I mean, the proportion of demat accounts were around about 10 to 15%. So any message which you would you like to give to them, especially who are trading at this point in time?
So I would like to tell everyone, all the new people who have joined D Street just last year, that it's not a marathon. And investing certainly doesn't mean that you have to have the highest returns. It's
Yes.
all about being consistent. And if you the high returns would be maybe for 1 year or 2 years, but what do you do after that? It is the fact that you have to be consistent and you have to keep learning from your mistakes, because fortune shine on the brave, and you have to be bold and you have to take those risks and invest your money. Even if you do it, it's a little amount or it's a higher amount, it's just keep investing, because we are currently in a bull market. And
Mhm.
in a bull market there are corrections. There, it is never an upward journey. There will
True.
be corrections on the way, so you have to find those dips and invest when the market corrects or a specific stock you're looking at corrects, and that's the time you put in money and you keep adding it on every dip, so that you can average out your investment. So I give an example to everyone that imagine it to be a train journey from
Mhm.
Churchgate to Virar. It's going to stop at Bandra, it's going to stop at Dadar, it's going to stop at Bombay Central, and
Right.
everywhere it's just going to stop maybe for 30 seconds. And that's the time you have to enter. If you don't enter in that time, the train goes and you have to wait for the other one. So our markets are exactly of the same kind. You have to enter on the dip, and
Right.
because you cannot time a top or a bottom, nobody can do that. But whenever it's corrected 5, 6, 7%, that's a good enough dip for you to enter and just invest a little bit more. So that is what I would like to tell all the women investors or all the newbies who have joined
Sure.
Dalal Street, that
Mhm.
please continue investing, hold your investments for long, and experience compounding of returns.
All right. Well, and that's a creative analogy given by you, Nirali. So good one, and I'm sure a lot of viewers who are listening to the show would actually implement that, because yes, we all have that this at the back of our minds, but when it comes to implementation, well, that really does not happen when it is required. So we might enter probably not at the dip, maybe slightly at a high. So yes, the knowledge is there, but we have to keep on reiterating that that is the way to go. Otherwise, the message will actually fizzle out. Now, Deepika, last question to you. I've gone through your website, and there are very interesting stories of different women investors. Any story from which you personally were inspired from?
I think I'm just going to very quickly share one or two here. When it comes to women investors, and it's not always, I don't like to make these stories, I don't like to make these stories sound morose. But yeah, very recently, a couple of weeks ago, we had somebody who's a part of our community. She's an avid investor. She's 25 years old,
Okay.
invests in stocks, does her SIPs, and all of that stuff. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, her father had a heart attack and he was hospitalized, and
Okay.
she was candid enough to share with the community that, you know what, we didn't know whether he had adequate health insurance. We didn't know whether he had life insurance. We didn't know where his savings were parked. And this platform has helped me learn a little bit, which has now equipped me to ask the right questions at least. I think half the problem is that we don't know what the right questions are, which is
Mhm.
why more often than not we're taken for a ride. And I think just talking about stories, something very simple. There are so many women these days who are now on maternity leave. You want to
True.
extend your maternity leave, and you don't have that option several times. You're a double income earning family. I can't extend it because we didn't save up enough. I need to go back to work after 6 months. So, like at Basis, what we did was, we provided them with a career break calculator, and someone actually like used it, came back to us and said, you know what, I've used it. I would like to talk to an advisor who would tell me now what to do when I want to extend that maternity when it happens by another 8 months, which is great that women are now open to these conversations. They're different pain points, different problems, but they can all be addressed. And we had this young mom who very recently told us, my child sleeps by 10 o'clock. She's like 10 months old. And I, instead of going on WhatsApp, I go on like a knowledge booster on basis. And our knowledge boosters take about 7 to 10 minutes for somebody to learn a quick lesson, whether it's on stocks, whether it's on SIPs, FDs, as the case might be. And she's like, oh, I use that 7 minutes well when it comes to just learning something new, which is great. So I think, yeah, morose stories are a plenty, but I think these happy stories are the more satisfying ones. You don't need problems to find solutions. You can just like figure it out much earlier.
Well, on that note, a happy story is something we want to end with, and I'm sure all the investors, leave D Street on a happy note with a lot of wealth creation. That's what we hope for. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Deepika. Thank you, Kanika and Rali, for joining this show, a very special show on Women's Day. Thank you so much for your time.